What's up, Ionics? Welcome to a new tutorial, and today we are talking about universal links and app links. So these kind of links are special links that allow users to directly jump into your application. You might have heard about deep links as well. That's like the broader name for it. And we will implement this first of all in our Ionic app. And then we have to configure some special stuff for Android and also for iOS. It's a tricky process, so I hope you can follow, and let's do this. For this tutorial, I actually already set up quite a few things, so we can just go through all of the steps, because all of these steps are important. If you just make a small mistake, it's really hard to find the error. But if you want to follow along, the full code for the app and all the tasks and scripts we run is of course below the video. So I created a blank new app and I generated 2 pages. Basically, we want to use an application, and when we navigate to a certain page, we want to directly load the content from my WordPress blog, which is exactly already happening in here. There are a lot of steps we have to take until we get here. With Ionic, of course, it's not too hard, but you're not bound to WordPress. So imagine like the Amazon page. If you navigate to an Amazon link with products and an ID from your device and you have the app installed, automatically the app with the product will open. So that's another use case. So besides the pages, actually we don't need a service at all. We need the Ionic native deep links plugin. It's not working 100%, but still it's kind of helpful in our case. Also very important is the next step, to add the Cordova plugin for deep links. And here we got 3 variables that we can or need to set. The URL scheme is actually something I think used in the past where we didn't have universal links or app links, when you were able to give your app a scheme and then users could start like your application with a link like this. So that's a custom URL scheme. I think we're adding it here as well. The other things are more important. HTTPS is actually required for Android, I think, anyway, so definitely make sure to set it like this. And then use your deep link host. So whatever your page is, you have to upload 2 files later. So whatever, really, just use your host. Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. So once we got all of this in place, let's quickly go through what I did as well. So within the app module, we load the HTTP client, the deep links plugin. So deep links go to providers and the HTTP client, like always, in here. As I said, we're using this WordPress example just to follow along and know what we're going to do. Perhaps you need something else. More important as well is our app routing. So make sure that you're able to navigate to a page and pass some data. In our case, with WordPress, we can use the slug of a page and then get the data from the WordPress REST API. Perhaps you have a products page, then you might pass an ID here. Just make sure everything is set up so that you can navigate to a certain page then. And then let's actually do a bit of implementation in the app component. So I already created an empty setup deep links function, which should run once the platform is ready. And in here we can now tell our app how to respond to certain links. So I will just use one path, and that's gonna be, oh, I already got those brackets, /slug and posts. I'll tell you in a second what this means. And yeah, we got a match here, whatever we're doing then. Basically, we're listening to any external link that comes in that matches to this scheme. So in here you might have different other slugs like products, ID, and then you tell what should happen. Normally the second argument is like the post page or even importing it, but this kind of routing doesn't really work with Ionic 4 or 5. So I went back to a little custom implementation, I would say. So we're abusing this field to which we got access in here. So if you want to log this out, you can simply log out the match and you will find the data in here. Now with that data, we can now construct an internal path So we got the information from a user that came into our app through a link. So they clicked like devdectic.com Ionic for WordPress client. And now we need to extract the information so that within our application, we can basically create something like posts slash this. This is how we want to navigate now internally in order to get to the right page. And we can see this in my preview, post slash this works. So in order to do so, we can create our path like this using the match route. Is here some kind of type information? No. But this will be the path right here. And the arguments are the first part, and we can grab the slug parameter just like this. So now we have exactly the link, as I said, post slash whatever. And then we just need to use the router. So this dot router navigate by URL using our internal path. And close this one. And we need to run all of this within the Angular zone. Otherwise, you will see an error on your console. So hopefully I get the brackets right. Then we are fine. You can also add a no match block here, but we don't really have to. So now we can come into the application with this link. So open from an email or chat or whatever. The deep links will match this because we got like /Ionic for WordPress client. We will get into the subscribe block. We construct our own URL and navigate forward. So that's the whole magic in here. Now, just to wrap things up, the list page is actually empty. So whenever I go back here, I'm on a blank page and can't go anywhere. And on my post page, I got a simple code to grab the slug. So this is set up in our routing again, and then grabbing the information from my WordPress blog. Again, the data, the code is of course linked in the tutorial. Just doing a bit to grab the media URL and setting the post. And also on the post page, I just display the post. But that's not really the main key learning of this post. So you can find the code. But now things get really interesting since we need to set up a few things for iOS and Android. Also, just a quick note, if you're using my WordPress solution as well and wonder why you don't get any data from your WordPress API, you have to allow the Ionic protocol, and by doing this snippet or putting this snippet into the functions PHP file of your theme. So I'm not an expert on WordPress, just wanted to let you know because I know a lot of you had this issue in the past. So with that being said, let's move on to Android. For Android, we first of all go to our config XML just to make sure that we have set a specific app ID. We're going to use this for iOS and Android, so make sure this is your app ID that you always use. I just use this one. Then the first addition in our config XML is to set the preference name Android launch mode and value single test. This is just a fix, I think, from the Ionic repository, so your app on Android isn't open multiple times. Now, next step is to generate a key store file. You can generate a key store file if you want to, like this. So gen key, whatever, blah, 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 blah. That's the same you use to sign your app, so perhaps you already have a key store file. If you have this key store file, you can go ahead and list the information of this key store file. So let's do this together right here. And when I do this, I get a bunch of information when I type my password. So especially interesting is the fingerprint part, which we can now use on a certain page of Google. So developers.google.com digital asset link tools generator. This tool generates a file that we need to upload to our hosting. So let's say I want to upload this on devdectic. My app ID is just what I have here in my config, so, or the package name, and my fingerprint is the one I find in here with 256, 65, whatever. So with that in place, I can generate my statement, which now looks like this. Go ahead and post the statement file at devdeck.com, well-known asset links JSON. Actually, I already did so, and you can see my asset links file. I created it in my folder here as well. So it looks really the same. Just make sure you got your package name in here and the fingerprint key. The rest is, I think, the same. And then go ahead, upload that file to the specific folder, and I already did so, and I can confirm this by going to exactly this link. Now, if you want to check if you did everything right, you go ahead and click test statement, and you see a success. So it looks like everything is fine for Android. Now, in order to test this for Android, I think you have to build or have to make a production build. It wasn't really working well for me with the standard Ionic build. So if you want to do this, go ahead, Ionic Cordova build Android release, and then sign your application. You can also find more information on this on the official Ionic site for creating an Android release. This will basically create the release, and then you also have to, please go to the next line, zip align it. If this is not working, in my case, for example, I always have to use my path to my Android SDK build tools, whatever, zip align, because I'm really bad and haven't set it up correctly in my path. I'm not sure why it's not working, just as an information. So then you finally get your APK at the root of your folder, and you can go ahead with ADB install devdeck APK, or however you want to call it. Now, this will install the application on your device. If you encounter any problems during the process, I always recommend to completely remove the app, both for iOS and Android. I'm not sure which magic is happening in the background, so I think that's the safer way to do it. Okay, just brought up my Android device, so here's the app. I can't navigate anywhere. If you want to easily test this, you can do this using another command. I guess it's covered behind my face now. Let me do it in here as well. Basically, you start the shell with an Android intent action view, and you pass in the URL that you want to open and the package of your application. So this might be different, and you perhaps use your own hosting and URL. So when you run this command, your application will open, and we see we're directly on this page. We're fetching the information from my blog, and everything is shown. Also, I could now close this application and go put it first of all here, then go to my notes, and in here just open a link. In the first run, it will ask if you want to open this in the browser or with the application, and I said I always want to open it with the application, and now this is exactly opening my application. So we have now configured the app link for Android, which is actually a bit easier. So just upload the asset links file, make it available, and then most of the stuff is working. Now we can focus on iOS. That won't be that easy. So first of all, we have to go into our iOS developer profile, into our certificates, and we have to create a new identifier, which I actually already did, of course, and I don't want to remove it and edit once again, but I will show you the steps. So if this wouldn't take as long to load, I can already show you my previously generated identifier, which has the bundle ID of our application, most important part, just a name, whatever, and the associated domains is activated. That is really important for our application. Now, we need to create another file for Apple on our server. We can first of all do this within our project, so I will show you my one. The name is Apple App Site Association. It is this name without any JSON or whatever at the end, and that's what we have to upload as well next to our asset links. Within this file, they always have the same structure. So we specify for app links what should happen and what is allowed. In the details, we can specify our app. So in here you see this is my team ID, which you can find right here next to your profile as well. The bundle ID right here. And I want to do this for all paths of my domain. If you have other parts, perhaps you only want to match everything the user navigates to products and otherwise still open the website, that is still possible. But I just use the star to basically always pass the information and try to open it within my application. The apps has to be an empty array. I really ask myself why this is the case, why we couldn't just remove it, but exactly these are the words in the iOS documentation. Apps has to be an empty array. So this file now goes to your hosting, and just like we saw here, well-known asset links, I can now also open the Apple site association, which actually downloads the file, also fine. There was just one thing that we want to or should talk about. There's a helpful tool, once again, at nice Heroku app. I hope it still works once you get here. In here, you just enter your credentials. So I used devdectic.com. I used the bundle identifier this, and this is my team identifier. Now you can check if you did everything right. In the beginning, this entry was red for me, and it meant I had to update my Apache configuration on the server. So this is now really custom to your hosting and whatever kind of server you're using. I just want to let you know that I had to simply put this into my default SSL configuration at my hosting. So specifying the directory where the Apple file is hosted and then setting the right content type for the header. This is really important and you have to go through this step. If this is not green, it won't work. The next step to assign it isn't actually required anymore, but this one has to be green. So make sure that all of this works for you. Now, let's go back to the config file. And within our config for the iOS block, we also need to, or we can put these two entries. These will basically automatically generate an entry, and I can show you where this entry normally is. So opening the xcode project and going here. So associated domains, we can remove this and manually add them, associated domains, then put in no, not web credentials, but app links, and then devdectic.com. That's the manual way to do this. And this is basically the automatic build with Cordova. So I think this makes a lot more sense. This word has to be app links. It's a specific word, which we also used in here. There are also other services, but in our case, app links is fine, and just put your own domain in here. Once you've done all of this, you can also launch the application on your device. But of course, let's take a look at this better on my device. So I've created a node with a little link in here. The first one is actually also the custom URL scheme, which now also works, but not really sure why I should use it. Perhaps if you have other apps that want to call your apps, you could use this. But let's try to use my link. And there we go. The Ionic application opens and I'm right in here. Also, there's something else interesting. So if I go to Safari and perhaps let's take another one, because you might think that it works only for this one post. Let's try to use another post I have on my blog. What we see is once we scroll down, we actually get this little bar up here within Safari. So that's really cool. And I can now directly from here click open, jump into my app, and here's again another tutorial from the blog. So it also works with this little notification. I haven't found a way to do this on Android. I think if you go within the Android browser to a URL, it will just open that URL. But for iOS, this seems to work. Oh, nice effect in here we got. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this kind of advanced tutorial on universal links and app links. So please really follow the steps closely, pause in the right spots, make sure you upload both the files, you set the headers, you use both of the verification tools, you set your app IDs. Really, a lot of things can go wrong and debugging will be hard, but give your best, and if you still encounter problems, just let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and stay subscribed so you get notified about all the new tutorials, quick wins, and other app development and web development videos on this channel. If you want to learn more about Ionic with in-depth courses, a community of like-minded developers so you can learn and build your apps faster, you should definitely check out the Ionic Academy, which is my code school to help you with everything Ionic, with a huge library of courses, material, and a supportive Slack channel so we can get your app out. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you inside the next video. Have a great day and happy coding. Simon.